So I put this hat on for a gag. I stole it from a birthday party I was at the other day, and I thought I'll wear it for a gag. Then I realised I had to crouch down because it's so tall, and so am I. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I am Nick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives, but especially your boyfriends and your husbands. So, a very warm welcome to Friday's edition of the DCU Daily. Let's get this absolutely freaking clear. Superman 2025 is the worst Superman film ever made, and it's bottom of my ranking. As I said the other day, this is a worse film than Superman 3 and Superman 4 put together. And as I said then, Superman 3 actually isn't a bad movie, and Superman 4 just had the budget removed, which created a problem. But actually, the storyline and the idea, the movie's heart was in the right place. Anyway, it's a garbage movie. It's an abomination. I hate what it does with my hero, and that's what I said when I told you about this movie at first. The film's biggest problem is Superman, but I don't want to talk about that abomination today. I want to review a proper review of Man of Steel, an actual brilliant Superman movie, in my opinion. I don't care if you don't like the movie. I don't care if you think that movie's an actual abomination. And this movie is the bestest movie ever. I love Man of Steel. And it's interesting, because I woke up to the news this morning to find out that the Peaky Blinders writer-creator, Stephen Knight, will be penning the next James Bond film. We already know Denis Villeneuve is directing this film. This reminds me of the direction they went in with Man of Steel. Think about it. Goya and Nolan penning the story. Goya penning the screenplay. The guys who gave us The Dark Knight, right? And for a lot of us, that film is fucking Mount Rushmore, Man of Steel. And only to the idiots who get a boner, or a big boner, by the way, over colour and gags, don't like that movie. Man of Steel is so beautifully contemporized. It beautifully contemporises the character of Superman, which means, in a way, they do try and change certain aesthetics about the character, and that's what cost them. That's what cost the box office. As I've said many times, Man of Steel is $1 billion movie. That movie should have made $1 billion plus. But it's the big swings, it's the self-indulgence from David Goyer, and maybe a little bit from Zach as well, that hurt that movie from being $1 billion movie. But don't get it twisted. I love Man of Steel, I love BVS, but those movies took big swings that hurt them ultimately in the box office. Now, yes, BVS made nearly $900 million. That was a $2 billion movie. And if you refrained from some of the big swings in that movie and did things slightly differently, and I wouldn't change anything about BVS, it's not just about money and points and scores, so I don't give a shit. I love the Snyderverse, and I love Man of Steel, especially. I think it's a great post 9/11 Superman movie. So we begin on Krypton, and already you can see that Zack Snyder is using computer-generated images, CGI, as a paintbrush. He's one of the rare directors that uses CGI as a paintbrush. You see, normally what happens is with CGI, the CGI people, the VFX people, get everything and they do it as quickly as possible. But Snyder, and rarely some directors will sit there with the VFX people, the CGI people, by the computer, and Zack will instruct them what to do. People were very, very curious that the people who did the effects for Man of Steel and BVS and the Snyder Cut, I think, or maybe not the Snyder Cut, DJ and his team also did the effects for the Flash movie that didn't turn out so well. And that's not DJ's fault, but the reason the Snyder CGI is so much better than the Flash movie CGI because Zack knows what he wants to see on the screen. He's an artist. He went to the art school in London. This guy has pride in what he puts on the screen for us. That's the difference. So already, you can see a Krypton that looks stunning, and there's that creature whose name escapes me from the comics, by the way. Some prats try to say that Snyder, Goyer and Nolan were trying to rip off Avatar. Oh, shut up, you fucking sheep. Absolutely not. Krypton looks amazing on the outside and on the inside in terms of the sets, on the sound stages. Absolutely beautiful. But very quickly we see a young a young Kal-El being born, and we see the struggles of his mother Lara giving birth, and Jor-El is there at the birth helping. There doesn't seem to be any medical people, but there couldn't be any medical people because this was a secret pregnancy. No one's supposed to know that they've had the first natural birth in probably thousands of years. So we see that, and then we see Jor-El in the council chambers trying to convince the council to hand over the Codex. Now the Codex is 1 billion kind of cloned life forms, and Jor-El wants it. What Jor-El actually wants to do is put this inside of his son and store these billions of life forms inside his son when he sends him to Earth, so the Kryptonians and the humans can learn to live together. So there's a lot about immigration here, if you think. If you think about it, when you get so many immigrants trying to come to different countries. So there's lots of commentary in this film, intelligent commentary. There's the commentary about NASA looking for other planets for us to live on because we fucked up our own planet. And ultimately, this is what Zod and the Kryptonians are trying to do on Earth, but they don't actually give a shit about us. They want to make it inhabitable for us, and they want to make it habitable for themselves, and that's what he's doing with the world engine. Anyway, Zod turns up as Jor-El is trying to talk to the council, and he walks in, and he goes, "You're all under arrest, basically, crimes against Krypton," whatever he's saying, and the woman who's sitting on the main throne goes, "On whose authority?" Mine. I love that bit. It's so fucking ruthless. I love the way how her body just seems to come apart a little bit. It's crazy. It's quite brutal. So then from that moment how ruthless Zod is. But we quickly find out as Jor-El says to him, "I want to honour the man you once was, not the monster you've become." And when Zod says, "I don't want us to fight," it's pretty clear that these guys were once really, really good friends. So unlike Superman 2025, this film has a plot, it has a story, and it has character development, and it's already been fleshed out in the first 5 minutes. A lot of it has, right? So we know that Zod and Jor-El were once friends. Shannon and Russell Crowe play this dynamic fucking beautifully. Even though Zod was willing to murder the council, or that woman on the council, he's not willing to kill Jor-El at this moment. And we'll talk about him killing Jor-El because that wasn't premeditated. That was a reaction, and you can see how he looks at his dead body when he does it, full of regret. Again, what we're seeing here is that Zod isn't just some moustache-twirling villain. This is a once good man, the once hero of Krypton. And now he's becoming this vicious kind of Bin Laden type of dictator. There's lots of that kind of commentary with General Zod throughout this movie. It's brilliantly put together by Goyer, Nolan and Snyder, but the performance of Michael Shannon is exceptional and outstanding. And actually, he's a better villain than Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger's a great Joker, I admit. I still don't think he's better than Nicholson, by the way. But I like Heath Ledger. It's sad what happened to him. He was an amazing actor. The performance in The Dark Knight was amazing. But I think that this character in Man of Steel, this villain, is more fleshed out. What I like about Zod, he's a good guy, a once good guy, right, let's not get twisted, doing bad things. And then you can ask the question, was Bin Laden once a good guy who ended up doing bad things? Maybe he was just, once upon a time, a good guy. Now, we know that bin Laden used to work for the CIA, right? But maybe he was a better person once upon a time. And what the West did to him and his country and people in the Middle East turned him into a monster. That doesn't mean he's blameless, but everyone is forged by the pain they feel in their lives. And this is what happens to General Zod. For years, he serves the Kryptonian Council. For years, he's protecting Krypton. And they're making these dumb decisions. For example, they went with cloning over, going out looking for different civilizations to learn from. And this is what hurt Kryptonian culture. And again, there's more kind of commentary here with humanity, where we're shutting our doors. We don't want to open our doors to other countries and other cultures. Again, lots of great commentary by Goya in this movie, and it really, really works. And so, ultimately, Jor-El escapes, and we find that this is not a Marlon Brando type of Jor-El. This guy can fight, this guy can hold his own. He's obviously had some training, and it doesn't really matter. I don't need it explaining. Just because you're a science person, it doesn't mean you can't fucking beat people up. So shut the fuck up. But it's a great little fight we see with Zod's men, and then he goes off, and he goes on that kind of creature. What is his name? Horokor, whatever his name is. I love the way he calls him. Horokor! It's so good, and you see, Jor-El and this creature flying, and it's amazing. And you can hear I prefer the way they use the robots in Man of Steel than they did in James Gunn's Superman 2025. Not that I hated the robots in Superman 2025. The voice actors did great. It was okay. But I prefer the underuse of them because they worked for what they did with them. So the voice of one of the robots goes to Jor-El that, you can't do this, it's against the law. He goes, this planet's basically about to implode. Nobody cares, Kilo or Kilex or whatever, right? So then we see this great sequence of Jor-El diving underwater, getting the Codex, which is basically a skeleton of, I'm assuming, some previous Kryptonian who died. So he basically has, they're trying to shoot him. The creature gets shot a little bit, and then he goes back to the lab with Lara, and he's using the Codex, and he's disintegrating it, and he's putting it inside his son. And then we see how Lara, and I forgot the actress's name, who did a great job, by the way, she was in Daredevil as well. She's having regrets. She's having second thoughts about sending Cal to Earth. But Jor-El tries to explain, look, we've got no choice. We're dead. Krypton's finished. But what if he doesn't survive the journey? She's trying to scare Jor-El into changing his mind. She's trying to manipulate Jor-El and say, yeah, let's just keep him here. But she's not being logical. If Cal, as a baby, stays on Krypton, he will die as well. And Lara slowly accepts this. And it's a very sad moment. And by the way, understatement of the century, but, Hans Zimmer's score, the emotional moments of the score, the action, everything, really underpins what this film's all about. When it's action, it's very, I love it. I love the way Zimmer does things, but the emotional beats are fantastic, especially the little theme he uses when, they're about to put the baby Kal-El in the pod. And also, let's not, there's all this kind of debate. Should we be using the Williams theme? Should we, use an original theme? And Man of Steel said, look, we're not going to virtue signal here for that theme. We're not going to simp the original Superman. We're going to do something new here. That was a great movie, but that was such a long time ago. And I absolutely love the fact that Hans Zimmer created a brand new Superman theme. It is so fucking good. And it works for this version of Superman. And in Superman 78, we have this big speech by Brando, which still takes my breath away today. But because I think what Goya wanted to do was have distinct differences from this origin story to the Donner origin story, they wanted to be different. So all you get from Jor-El and Crow is, goodbye, my son. And he says a couple of more words. Our hopes and dreams go with you, are carried with you. Whatever he says, right? But it's still effective because it's Russell Crowe. Imagine Russell Crowe making a long speech to his son. Crowe is, for me, Crowe is just as good an actor as Marlon Brando. You can mock me if you want. Russell Crowe is fucking class. Anyway, and so Zod finds them, and Zod's disgusted to find out that they've had a natural birth. Heresy, he says. And then they have the fight, and then, when the fight stops, Jor-El wins, and Zod goes, Lara, do not press that button. But she does. And once he sees the spaceship leaving, and it's a stunning designed spaceship with the S on it, it's fucking, there's no expense spared in this movie. There's no piece of crafts or artistic temperament spared in this movie. It looks great. But as Zod sees this ship going away, he stabs Jor-El out of anger. And as I said earlier, he looks regretful. This is his friend, but he's got to do what he's got to do. He will do anything to protect Krypton. That is the reason why they created his clone in the first place. And this is how it works. You are created to be a worker bee. You are created to be a soldier or a general like Zod. So Zod only knows one thing: to protect Krypton the only way he knows. And so he's that type of character. He's very single-minded. He's very ruthless, but he has this kind of villainous integrity. And I really love that about General Zod. Anyway, Zod's getting his people to try and shoot down Kal-El's ship. It doesn't work. He's arrested by the Kryptonians. And then we get this brilliant scene on this kind of cult stage, if you like. And, he's disgusted at the Kryptonians. He spits at one of them. You're just cowards sending us to the Phantom Zone. And then he does the whole, I will find him. I will find him, Lara. I will take back what you took away from us. I will find him! And I remember seeing that in the trailer, I will find him. And the way Shannon does it is fucking amazing. It's one of the great Superman moments. And then you can see through the trailer that this isn't Terrence Stamp's General Zod. This is something totally different. Because when we heard Zod was going to be Man of Steel, we were all like, again. But we've seen that. Can't we have Brainiac? Can't we have Metallo? No, they did Zod. This was the idea. And, because Zod's so different in this movie, and I think what Man of Steel did is made Zod a very important, iconic villain now, especially with the Terrence Stamp version we saw as kids as well. And so it's very sad. Lara's standing there with a robot, and the robot goes, aren't you going to search for shelter? There is no shelter, Kilo. And the way the planet explodes, it's a glorious explosion, if you like. And then we get the Zimmer, the really hardcore Zimmer music. And we can see Kal's ship going towards Earth. And by that time, if you're a first-time watcher of this film, you expect the Smallville sequences. You expect to see young Clark growing up in Smallville. But they surprise us. We see an adult Clark on a ship, a boat, a fishing boat, whatever it is, right? A trawler, whatever you want to call it. And they see something on fire, and then Clark goes to save it. And there's this great moment on the ship where nobody really likes Clark on this ship, obviously. He's new. Someone actually saves him from something falling on him, because basically they don't know that, he's Superman. He's got superpowers. And it's an amazing moment to see a human being trying to protect somebody who will go on to protect humanity. So there's a lot of irony there. So Clark goes to save this burning, whatever it is, right? And there's this moment, great moment, where Henry Cavill is basically got a vest like this on. He's on fire at one point, and he's saving everyone. And I like, we see the physical attributes of Superman, because this is a Superman that doesn't know how strong he is yet. He hasn't really used his whole strength. So he's really having to struggle to hold the whole thing. And it's brilliant. And I love the underwater scene when he's just laying there. It's just so amazing. And as I say, this is a visual film, but it does have great written character and emotional beats. And so, you get the whole thing where we're seeing Clark travel around. So we see Clark working at a bar. And that's a great moment as well, when that guy's harassing the woman that Clark's obviously gets on with and respects. I don't know if he's attracted to her. and this guy pinches her backside, and there's this whole thing. And what we see here is brilliant by Nolan and Goya, is the restraint of a hero. This guy is daring Clark to punch him. We all know if Clark touches him, he's dead. So he goes to push Clark and he can't push him, and the guy laughs it off. It's a brilliant moment. He pours beer over Clark's head, and you see the restraint. But he's not that restrained, because when he goes outside, somehow he knows what his truck is, and he destroys it. And we see the guy laughing on the other side of his face when he sees his, basically his truck's been speared. It's brilliant. It's a moment really they took from Smallville when Clark does that to Whitney's truck, because there's a lot of Smallville nostalgia in this movie. There's not really any Superman 78 nostalgia, but Smallville was the big thing at that time. It had just ended, probably because they were going to make Man of Steel, and there was a lot of love for Smallville in this film because Zack Snyder and his kids used to watch Smallville together as a family. And of course, Smallville is one of the great Superman interpretations. So then Clark has found out that at the Arctic, the Americans are there, and they've found something. They've actually found a spaceship. And this is where we first see the introduction of Amy Adams as Lois Lane. This is not your Margot Kidder. This is not your Terry Hatcher. This is, I think, mentally a more mature Lois Lane. She knows what she wants. She knows what she wants to investigate. And she's here to find out more about this ship. And the government have tried to stop her from, taking it to court. And she won, as she explains. And we have Christopher Maloney from Law and Order, Special Victims Unit. He just quit that show at that point, and he delivers a brilliant performance as Colonel Hardy. And it's a shame we didn't see more of him in the DCEU, because this is what I mean. Don't kill good characters played by great actors. We could have seen more of them. And if they had actually had everyone, because clearly by the end of the movie they're trapped in the Phantom Zone, right? So we could have had that. If Superman and everyone was trapped in the Phantom Zone, instead of Superman breaking Zod's neck, that would have been a great sequel while Brainiac is taking over the Earth. That would have been a great sequel, and that's my sequel that I wrote, by the way. So Christopher Maloney is class, and there's a bit of banter between him and Lois Lane, but it's the banter and the relationship between him and Faora later on in the movie. And, that's where I'd like to draw it to a close for today. And we'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about Man of Steel again, because it really is such an interesting movie. I don't want to do it all in one go, because if this video goes over 30 minutes, it will take like 2 days because my internet's just so terrible. So we'll call it at a halt for today. But as you can see, the reverence I have for this film, it's a very, very interesting film. The more you look at it, the more stuff you discover through watching it. Life shouldn't be through the internet. Discussions about art shouldn't just remain online and on social media. We should actually watch movies and love what we love. And if we hate something, we should shrug our shoulders and move on.